Welcome all in this lecture of biophysics. In this particular lecture, I am going to discuss about the basic concept regarding the random walk theory. So, random walk models of macromolecules view them as rigid segments connected by hinges. One way to characterize the geometric disposition of a macromolecule such as DNA is through the deterministic function Rs. This function tells us the position R of that part of the polymer which is a distance s along its contour. An alternative we will explore here is to discretize the polymer into a series of segments, each of length a, and to treat each such segment as though it is rigid. So, in this particular model, we will follow this particular assumption, that is, we will discretize the polymer into a series of segments. You see this particular model, a polymer has been discretized into a series of segments, each of length small a, and each of the segment is rigid. The various segments that make up the macromolecular chain are then imagined to be connected by flexible links that permit the adjacent segments to point in various directions. The 1 and 3 dimensional versions of this idea are shown in this figure. You see, I have already said that is macromolecules can be thought as of different segments of length a, and these segments are rigid. So, these are the distribution of its different segments in one dimension. So, this is in one dimension and this is in 3 dimension. So, in the one dimensional case, the segments are at plus minus 180 degree with respect to each other. So, you carefully look at this picture. So, each of the segment is plus minus 180 degree with respect to each other in one dimensional case. We draw them as non-overlapping for clarity. So, they are not overlapped. For the 3 dimensional case, we illustrate the situation in which the links are restricted to 90 degree angle. So, you see here each of the segments are 90 degree angles with each other. Though there are many instances in which we will consider links that can rotate in arbitrary directions. Now, figure 8.2, you look at this figure. This figure shows an example of the correspondence between the real structure of these molecules and their idealization in terms of the lattice model of the random walk. So, the model that we are going to describe is also known as the lattice model of the random walk. So, in figure A, you see, so this is the conformation of the DNA. Structure of DNA on a surface as seen experimentally using atomic force microscopy. So, this is one of the figure of the DNA which is viewed through the atomic force microscopy. So, you see this and that the segments are distributed in this way, and in figure B, representation of the DNA on a surface as a random walk. So, what we are doing here, that is we are idealizing this particular distribution of the segments. You see these are the different segments. We are assuming that the segments are distributed in this way. Representation of DNA on a surface as a random walk model. Using the discretization advocated above, we show how this same structure can be approximated using a series of rigid rods connected by flexible hinges. We will argue that this level of description can be useful in settings ranging from estimating the entropic cost of confining DNA to a bacterial cell to the stretching of DNA by laser tweezers. So, this particular model that we are going to adopt is a powerful one, and there is many application for such models. Now we will discuss about the mathematical details of the random walk problem. In random walk models of polymers, every macromolecular configuration is equally probable. So this is one of the basic postulates, that is every macromolecular configuration is equally probable. In this section, we work our way up by degrees to sum of the full beauty and depth of the random walk model. The aim of the analysis is to obtain a probability distribution for each and every macromolecular configuration, and to use these probabilities to compute properties of the macromolecule that can be observed experimentally, such as the mean size of the macromolecule and the free energy required to deform that molecule. So our aim is that we will at first develop the random walk model and apply the random walk model to compute different properties of the macromolecule. For example, it may be the mean size of the macromolecule. You can also find the free energy required to deform that molecule. Our starting point will be an analysis of the random walk in one dimension. So at first I have shown that is how the chains are distributed in one dimension. So this is the one dimensional distribution. So we will start from the one dimensional distribution with our discussion being guided by the ways in which we will later generalize these ideas and apply them in what might at first be considered unexpected settings. So later we will generalize the model. We will start from the one dimensional problem and later we will generalize. We begin by imagining a single random walker confined to a one dimensional lattice with lattice parameter A as already shown in figure 8.1. So I have already shown you the distribution in one dimensional case, and lattice parameter A means that is each of the segment is of length A and it is rigid. The life history of this walker is built up as a sequence of left and right steps. So as we have read random walk model in our statistical mechanics, we know that is a random walker proceed in this way, that is it moves in some steps, but these steps may be left and may be right, but they are equally probable, with each step constituting a single segment in the polymer. So in each step there will be a single segment. In addition, for now we postulate that the probabilities of right and left steps are given as PR is equal to PL is equal to half. So as I have said, that is they are equally probable. So probability of the right and left steps are half. The trajectory of the walker is built up by assuming that at each step the walker starts anew with no concern for the orientation of the previous segment. This is one of the important case regarding the random walk, that is the left and right steps, they are equally probable as I have said before, but other point is that after a particular step, when it is completed and when the new step is going to start, so at that time the random walker will start afresh. So as such, that is he does not know about the previous orientation. So the basic thing is that these movements are not correlated, these are uncorrelated. We note that for a chain with n segments, this implies that there are a total 2 to the power n different permissible macromolecular configurations. So if there are n segments, we can distribute these n segments in 2 to the power n different ways. We know that each with probability 1 divided by 2 to the power n. Now what I will going to show, that is the mean size of a random walk macromolecule scales as the square root of the number of segments, that is root n. Given the spectrum of possible configurations and their corresponding probabilities, one of the most immediate questions we can pose concerns the mean distance of the walker from its point of departure as a function of the number of segments in the chain. So suppose the chain has capital number of segments, and what we are going to find, that is the mean distance of the walker from its point of departure. So when it just started from its origin, then how much distance it traveled. If it has n segments, so how much distance it traveled. So that mean distance we are going to find. In the context of biology, this question is tied to problems such as the cyclization of DNA, the likelihood that a tethered ligand and receptor will find each other, and the gross structure of plasmids and chromosomal DNA in cells. So this particular problem has several applications as stated here. To find the end-to-end distance for the molecule of interest, we can use both simple arguments as well as brute force calculation, and we will take up each of these options in turn. So at first, in this particular lecture, I will discuss about the simple arguments. The simple argument notes that the expected value of the worker's distance from the origin r after n steps can be obtained as. So what is the expected value of the worker's distance? We are denoting them as r. So left hand side of this equation is the expected value of the worker's distance from the origin, which I am denoting as r. So r has been placed in a bracket notation denoting that is it is the average of r. And in the right hand side you see it has been written that is sum of xi, where I is equal to 1 to capital N. So this particular range denotes the number of steps, and this particular notation is the average, where xi is equal to plus minus a. So xi, because we know that in each step the worker can move either left side or to the right side, and the distance is the distance of the segment, that is a. So xi is equal to plus minus a is the displacement suffered by the worker during ith step, and where we have introduced the bracket notation to signify the average. Recall that to obtain such an average, we sum over all possible configurations, with each configuration weighted by its probability. So to find the average, we have to sum over all possible configurations, and with each configuration weighted by its probability. But in this particular case, the probabilities are all equal, as we have stated before, because the movement for the left and right is equally probable. This result may be simplified by noting that the averaging operation represented by the brackets on the right hand side of the equation can be taken into the summation symbol. So I will show you later that is how we are using that, but the point is that this averaging may be done by taking the summation symbol outside the bracket. That is, the average of a sum is the sum of the averages. We are using this particular formula, that is average of a sum is the sum of the averages. And through the recognition of the fact that is average of xi is equal to 0. Why? Because left side movement and right side movement is equally probable, so it may be either plus a or minus a. That is why the average of xi is equal to 0. Indeed, this leaves us with the conclusion that the mean displacement of the worker is identically 0. So mean displacement of the worker is identically 0 because the left side movement and the right side movement is equally probable. A more useful measure of the worker's departure from the origin is to examine r square. So with average of xi, it is very difficult to measure the mean displacement. So what we are doing, we are squaring this equation. So when we are squaring this equation, the right side can be written in this fashion, that is I is equal to 1 to n, j is equal to 1 to n, and xi into xj. So this is basically square of xi, but we are using two different notation. So basically this equation 8.2, this is the variance of the probability distribution of r. This particular formula is known as the variance of the probability distribution of r, while root over of r square is known as the standard deviation. The significance of the standard deviation is that the probability of finding our random worker within one standard deviation of the mean is close to 70%. We have read this particular definition of the standard deviation in our statistical mechanics. In other words, the standard deviation is the measure of the typical excursion of the random walker after n steps, and therefore serves as a good surrogate for the typical size of the related polymer. So, from the expression of the standard deviation, what we can estimate, that is the typical size of the related polymer, because as it has worked after n steps, that is it has completed its n steps, so therefore we can measure its mean size. In order to make progress on equation 8.2, we break up the sum into two parts. So, the right hand side has been separated into two different parts. So, first part is, that is for I is equal to 1 to n, and this is xi square, and another part what we have done, that is the case that is where I is not equal to j, I is not equal to j, and the range is from 1 to n, and this is the multiplication of xi into xj. Note that each and every step is independent of all steps that precede and follow it. We have already discussed about this matter. This implies that the second term on the right hand side is 0. Why it is 0? Because you see, suppose you are taking capital N up to 2, but here the point is that I will not be equal to j. So, that will be the average of x1, x2. I will be 1, j will be 2, x1, x2. Now, the point is that we have already noted that the xi is equal to plus minus a. Xi is equal to plus minus. So, value of the parameter x, it may be either plus a or minus a. So, multiplication of xi and xj, if we make it, if you estimate the average of xi and xj, so what you will obtain, for two cases, both xi and xj may be either positive or negative, and in that case the value of xi xj will be a square, and in another two cases either xi or xj will be negative. So, in that case the multiplication of xi xj will be minus a square. So, ultimately if you compute the average, then it will be 0, and this is also true for any value of capital N. So, the point is that the second term is 0. In this way you can show it. So, only and there will be the first term, and we have already noted that is xi is equal to plus minus a. So, xi square will be a square. So, what we can write, that is r square, that is equal to capital N into a square. Why capital N? Because the range of I is equal to 1 to n, that is why the right side will be capital N into a square. Thus, we have learned that the walker's departure from the origin is characterized statistically by the assertion that root over of r square is equal to a root capital N, meaning that the distance from the origin grows as the square root of the number of segments in the chain. So, if there are n number of segments, therefore, the distance from the origin will grow as the square root of the number of segments in the chain. So, this is what about the simplified description of the random walk model. The content of this lecture has been taken from the textbook Physical Biology of the Cell, written by Rob Phillips and others. I hope you have understood the basic concept regarding this model, and for further understanding I will request the viewers to go through this textbook, and I also thank you for listening this lecture.